Thanks for tuning in to the Urban School Podcast, and I'm back with more boxing news. Really don't cover boxing much, but I seen an interesting story the other day. There were reports that Floyd Mayweather it's not considering coming out of retirement, but is coming out of retirement after his fight with Mike Tyson in the spring. So this would be very unique or unprecedented as he retired at 50 and 0 way back 9 years ago, so it's been like a 9-year hiatus for him, and he will be 49 years old this week. So by the time he returns, he'll be almost 50 years old, or the next time has a professional fight, because he's been doing a lot of exhibition fights and things like that. So when he actually returns to the ring, he will be close to 50 years old. So it'll be very interesting to see, like I said, with his hiatus and his age. But I think it's perfect timing for him to return. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I also will talk about why it's not a perfect return for him and the things surrounding that. So his return to the ring at the age 49 will be definitely his biggest task because like I said, it's not a lot of big fighters right now, and he used to be the biggest name in boxing for over 20 years. And when he retired, most thought he probably retired a little too early because he still had flashes of greatness, and he still was able to be still considered the best defensive fighter in the game. And I think he still will have some of those pieces. And then if you knew Floyd Mayweather from watching the behind the scene videos of the 24/7s and things like that, he was very physically fit and in shape, and I'm pretty sure he stayed in shape despite being away from the ring for so long because that's just what his natural inclination is, to work out and just be healthy because he's done it his whole life. So there's no doubt in my mind he'll still be in shape. But the thing is, it's just about taking the hits. It's been like almost 10 years since he took a punch, a real punch, other than those exhibition fights that we know those people didn't have a chance or couldn't hurt him. But he'll be in the ring with people that could actually hurt him, and it's actually can affect his record because we know that 50 and 0 was the most important thing to him. Even though most people say he was ducking fights and stuff, but um, it's kind of different, uh, his return, because it's not welcome with open arms. Because most people are saying, for example, that he's just returning because of financial issues, and there's no credence to this, and that's all reports and what people are speculating because he lived such a lavish lifestyle and 9 years away from the ring, making consistent money that he was making because he was making $100 million or more a fight, and he was doing that twice a year. So he was making anywhere from 200 to $300 million a year off just fighting 2 fights a year. I'm pretty sure he didn't change his spending habits of having his own private jet, buying so many watches, and his gambling habits and things like that. Um, Most people are speculating that he's coming back just for that, and he had the tax problems back a while back. So most people are speculating that he's coming back for a money grab, even though he's fighting Mike Tyson, and that'll be a nice chunk of change um, when he fights him in the spring. But we know that's not an official fight, and it's not really going to be anyone getting hurt in that fight. It's going to be just for show and for novelty and things like that. It's not going to be anything serious. Um, but the whole thing of Tyson, I mean not Tyson, but Floyd Mayweather too, is most people it goes to that ducking narrative. Most people say he ducked most of the important fights in his career, and it'll be no different because we know Terrence Crawford just announced his retirement. So with Crawford announcing his retirement, there won't be people asking him, "Hey, why don't you fight Crawford next?" With Tank Davis's issues away from the ring, he's on a hiatus right now, so people won't ask you about that fight. Um, there's a lot of fights, a lot of fighters um, that the serious contenders, besides the Canelo, but he's already beat Canelo, so nobody wants to probably see a part two of that.
Mhm.
Earl Spence has been out as well. So there's a lot of fighters that we always thought he didn't want to fight. This is perfect time for him to come back because nobody can ask him about those fights because those fighters are not available other than Canelo. But like I said before, he already beat Canelo. They're probably not going to make that fight or pay for that fight again because that fight was so one sided in Mayweather's favor. But I think it will be different now if he came back to fight Canelo. Canelo will be a lot more ready than he was. So but they always say he had a history of handpicking fights, and it looks like this even more because you know, Terrence Crawford just announced his retirement just a couple of weeks ago, and then you come back and say, "Oh, after this Tyson fight, I'm coming back and I'm officially back on the market to fight professionally." So it looks away for sure because all of those other fights looks like you just trying to duck Crawford, and nobody can ask you about Crawford now because he retired. So now you're gonna pick some mid-level fighter to fight. Um, and I've seen rumors or seen people speculate that he could fight a couple of fights, um, a couple of fights that that I think won't make sense. But him to fight Shakur Stevenson, for example, I don't think will be a very boring fight because both of them are they're pretty much the same type of fighters. They're very defensive minded, really can't hurt anyone on the offensive end as much. So it's going to be pretty much what do you call it, a pillowcase fight for the most part, and it's not going to be exciting at all. And you're not going to get the money that you want because we already know what kind of fight it's going to be. Regardless of how you try to sell it, we know what it's going to turn out to be. And plus, Mayweather's like 49, and Shakur is still in his 20s, so it's going to be a 20-year age gap, and it's not. Most people will predict that fight to be one-sided in Shakur's favor because how athletic can Mayweather still be? I don't doubt it, his physical ability, but at some point with that hiatus, fighting a kid so young, it's not going to look the same. So I think he's trying to take advantage of the current boxing state and how fragile it is now because there's no excitement, and he'll definitely bring more eyes back to boxing, especially in the professional realm because we're so used to seeing these Jake Paul and Logan Paul fights and all these celebrity fights that come up. Um, it'll be nice to see the eyes come back to the real boxing, but I think it's maybe 5 or 6 years too late for Mayweather to try to do this. But with no big names and most of the boxing elite right now, either retired or in some kind of hiatus or in some kind of legal trouble, it's the perfect time for him to get an easy payday. But to what extent? Because pay per view is not what it used to be, and a lot of things changed in that 9 years since Mayweather retired. Um, Netflix is pretty much the game now, where you get the bag. Um, so pay per view is nobody really wants to pay $100 for a fight anymore. Similar to what MMA is doing, a lot of their fights are on Paramount Plus and things like that. So it's going to be different. He's going to have to find creative ways to try to get the bag because he's not going to be able to control the pieces of the pie like he used to because Netflix is doing it and they have all these different PBC and these different venues that he'll have to go through. And I don't think he would exude the amount of control that he would need, that he had, the leverage he had in the past. Because now coming back, he's gonna have to do what they do in, NBA or NFL. He's gonna will have to do one of these prove it deals. Now, if he looks fantastic against Tyson, which Tyson is like 60, so there's like a 20-year age gap there as well. So it's gonna be a huge gap there as well. So even if looking impressive against Mike Tyson, can you still get the leverage that you can get? Because he's a savvy businessman, but people don't want to pay for the things that they used to pay for back when he was fighting. People would easily drop $100 to watch a fight back in his prime years before he retired. But now everything is more subscription based. People are on the zone more. Like I said before, they have Netflix for free that they can watch. They got PBC, which is not expensive as a Mayweather fight. But still, I don't think he can demand the payday that he had before. Now he could probably easily get 50 to 100 million, but I don't think he can go over 100. But even getting to 100, I think would be a stretch because he doesn't. I mean, at almost 50 years old, who's going to pay for that? So the revenue that he'll be able to make from a fight will be totally different. But I think he can build upon it. But at the age of 50, they're not going to want to watch you fight as much as you were in your 30s, even in your early 40s, because he's never been that exciting of a fighter. But he made the money off being a villain, and people want to see him fall. So it'll be interesting to see. But tell me what your thoughts on Mayweather on retiring. And until next time, see you next time.